Hey, everybody, come on in. I want to say bring a chair, but you're probably in a chair. Bring a pillow, bring a blanket, bring your favorite warm drink or cold drink. Come, in other words, make yourself comfortable. And I think I'm saying that because I think all of us right now need comfort because the world is overactive, let's put it that way. Overactive in change. Some people thinking it's for the good. How I don't exactly know, but there are. But it's worldwide. It's
Mm,
worldwide upheaval. So what do we do from the HR and the OD function? What needs to be done? What can we do? What needs to be done? And this is so gigantic, so global, so embedded in the rhythm of history. You know, the rhythm of history is saying this is going to explode.
yeah.
It's just that we're all so much closer to one another in every way, geographic and communicative, that when one person blinks, whatever, the world explodes. So, and before we came on, I was thinking, I just kind of am down in the dumps. What do I do? And do I have to do anything? And I'm going to say this is my last statement. To Bob before we came on, I said, I think we have to not feel hopeful. I don't feel hopeful. We have to act hopeful, regardless. And that's all I have to say. I'm done. Let's go get a
Oh,
coffee.
yeah.
Sorry, that
Let's.
was a rambling intro, but there you have
Well, I think this is going to be a spaghetti session today, where we just kind of pull one thread of the spaghetti out
it.
at a
Okay.
time. So if I think about your setup for a moment, I I look at the heart and soul of what OD is all about, and it's
Yeah.
about understanding and observing this thing we call a system. So an organization is a system. And within that system, there are many small microsystems, whether it be a
Right.
store, whether it be a department. And so I think we come at it with uh, a sense of hope that we can look at the system and understand it in a way that we can provide the right intervention to
Hmm.
help the health of the system. And hopefully, if you have a healthy organization, you're going to have a successful organization. So, you know, and I think what you were describing is that system that we call our organization is part of a larger system we call our country, the world. And
Yeah.
so, I think not to overcomplicate the challenge, but I think at the end of the day, that recognizing that all OD people also have their own opinions and emotions, how do you come at it in a way that, while maybe not feeling hopeful, there's a sense of coming at it with a sense of hopefulness. We can make a difference. We can improve. We can
Yeah.
somehow make sense.
Acting hopeful.
Acting hopeful, yes.
Yeah. Which does create its own energy eventually.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It starts
Yeah.
with one person, one conversation. So how do we make this real? Can you think of a concrete example, uh, or even
Well,
if it's hypothetical, that so what is this? So what do you do with this?
well, first of all, what I what I was thinking as you spoke was OD is not neutral. It's
Tell
not
me.
saying whatever would make you make more money or it has a basic democratic
Yes.
assumption.
Yes.
And it teaches that. And I've recently had some notes come to me from former CEOs saying that's what we taught or embedded, and it takes on a life of its own, and it does have incredible value. And I don't think democracy, uh, I was going to say isn't well, but it's a counterpoint of view to the natural power versus force in the world. So we are not part of the system. We are part of a value system, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do, and that value system is not soft, is not lazy, it's not kumbaya. If I hear that one more time, that's the last time I ever say it. Um,
I'm betting against it, but keep going, Joyce. You're on a
well,
roll.
I forgot where I was, but so if all of this is viewed as soft,
Yeah, yeah.
it
And
is
it's
not.
anything but, right?
Yes, and as we can see in the United States right now, democracy is a pain in the neck, but it puts uh, power. I'm cautious here because I think I don't have data. Well, okay, I'm an old hippie. Gives power to the people. And out
Yeah.
of that comes a lot of energy and a lot of astounding work. Blah.
So I'll give you what I think. I asked for a concrete, real example, and as you were talking, I came up with two actually. And the first is what happened in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago. And it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum, but that's a great example of the power of people self-organizing in a way that ultimately are able to shift the outcome. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was tragic and it was horrible. And but if you think about democracy in action, uh, it was literally kind of a
Appeal.
groundswell
Yes,
where
that's better.
people
Yeah.
came up, and it wasn't like let's all get together. It wasn't, and it was almost unorganized. It was like a
Yes,
total.
there were no t-shirts.
There were no t-shirts. There were a couple expressions, but to me, that is at the heart of what I think we aspire as OD practitioners is how do you harness and leverage and therefore act hopeful about uh, allowing the people that are closest to the work, allowing and trusting the organization, i.e., people, to be able to kind of see through the haze and make the right decisions.
And that,
Kumbaya.
yeah, yeah, cool. And that releases energy.
Yes.
So all the energy systems of every company is different. And you can go department to department, people by people to say, yeah, that's positive energy. It's active, it's forward looking. Oh, this one is a little in a quagmire. They're stuck. They do have a tyrannical, is that the word? A
Yeah.
boss
Top that.
who produces, but it's force, which is actually today when I came to the conversation, I was going back to look at a book called Power versus Force, which I do want
Yeah.
to recommend. Um, anyhow, you can we can go back to that if we feel like it. It shows by watching what words are used is one of the things they can do to see is this company, is this organization, is this team acting from force or power? And that's a big shift. And then if you're acting more from power, where does the power reside? Ay, 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 I got a headache already.
Oh, Lordy, Lordy. So you know,
Well, think of the latest company that you worked for.
yeah,
Where was, well, and I was going to say, how deep or did the energy come from below and come up, or did it come the energy? And I'm assuming good energy right now.
yeah,
Does it come from the top? Does it meet in the middle? And I almost say want to say start anywhere,
yeah.
as
So
long as it's subversive, so
if I
that nobody
think,
kills it. Go ahead.
yeah, if I think about my experience at, and I'm thinking of Food Lion, I think the origins and the history was a pretty rigid, not tyrannical, but kind of a top down, in terms of discipline and execution. And I think over time it got turned on its head. And actually, one could argue it happened through crisis,
Yeah.
where if I think about my experience, and I didn't come on board until the early 2000s, I would say the power and the energy came as a result of leadership inviting different voices, particularly
Mhm.
retail, to the table
Yep.
to come up with solutions, to come up with challenges that need to be solved. And I think that's what transformed the company. And oh, I might add 53 straight quarters of positive store sales
Wow.
um, in just reported. Go ahead, Joyce.
I'm clapping. No, I just was putting my hand up. I have no idea why.
Joyce is making the touchdown. Oh, we just
Yeah,
scored. No, but to me,
I
that's a
was
great
saying,
example.
and I would say there was at Food Lion clogged energy.
Yes.
And so any energy that came, there was a lot of fear.
I was going to say, if you have force is the predominant, you're going to
Yeah,
have that fear and you're going to
yeah,
have, I'm going to keep my head down and keep my mouth shut, right?
right. And so then, but where was a different energy inserted that
Great question.
when you insert the right energy, it will spread. If you insert energy that isn't the possible solution, it'll die. So you've got to tap the right energy. And I would say, from my experience, that energy came from the top for a while.
Yes. Yes,
An introduction of a new way
that's right.
to
And
get energy,
introduce,
to get
yeah,
focus,
and inviting people to the table, right?
and to have pride.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. There, to me, there were two um, powerful, what I would call um, OD interventions. I think first was to validate and express the power of a store manager as part of our system. So I think there may have been a time where store managers were just necessary people to kind of run the
Right.
store while we made a lot of money. Where through our store manager of the year or the store manager excellence award, it kind of put the spotlight, if you will, that we see this as the key pivot point for our success, having
Yeah.
uh, you know, inspired good leadership running that store.
Mhm. Yay.
I'm done, Joyce. No, but I'm saying that I think a lot of times we think about one event or we think about an intervention where to me it's more of an attitude. We said we're going to start out with acting hopeful as opposed to being hopeful. I
Mm.
think there was a lot of acting hopeful that our path that we were taking, power versus force down, was going to have good outcomes for the company.
So shall we play the word game?
Well, give me a context. What do we,
Okay.
uh,
I will. It is the power versus force. And
okay.
the subtitle is The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior.
Ooh,
Yeah. And it is I recommend the book. And it's a little heavy duty. However, it talks a lot about power versus force
yeah.
and gives words that if you hear, you can kind of assess, are you in a system that is powerful or forceful? And forceful meaning, energy and coming down upon you, and power meaning energy being elicited and growing.
Okay. So can I think of a company that I've been associated with, but not share who they are?
Yes.
Okay. I got
All
my
right.
company.
Now there's a whole alphabet here, so get the book. It'd be a great exercise, actually. So I will do what, 10, 5?
Yeah.
Want to do 5?
Let's, let's do 10.
Okay. Allowing versus controlling.
Controlling.
Balanced versus extreme.
Balanced.
Honest versus legal.
Honest.
Principled versus expedient.
Oh, Lord. Um, Principled.
Um, this one surprised me. Serene versus dull.
Dull.
Spontaneous or impulsive.
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say impulsive.
Now, here's an interesting one. Surrendering or worrying.
Worrying.
Thrifty versus cheap.
Um, wow. Thrifty.
Unifying versus dividing.
Unifying. Pollyanna Bob. I know these. I'm picking kind of the more positive ones.
No, if that's true, it's true.
Yeah.
Warm versus feverish.
Um, Feverish.
Want a couple more or not?
Give me three more if you got them.
Intentional versus calculating.
Calculating.
Just versus punitive.
Just.
Experienced versus cynical.
Experienced. That's it.
What
I
is
love
it?
it, Joyce.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book, not easy to read. And anyhow, it's OD is the digging for power.
Yep.
Where is that energy? Where is the power? And where do we want to direct that power? So I recommend that.
So what I think would be a great perhaps way of doing this is you know how like and this is technology that hopefully isn't
Yeah.
overly obtrusive. You know how they have the new system where you can use your cell phone to like vote in real time? Wouldn't it
Yeah.
be neat to be in a large mixed group and ask those same comparison of words and have on the screen
Yeah.
instantly, like after a
Yeah.
couple of seconds, where people voted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the rich conversations that could come for that. I love it, Joyce.
Yeah. And you could
I'm
do that.
hopeful about it.
Ah, you're acting hopeful.
I'm acting hopeful, and I think I feel, but I think it's I what strikes me about today's episode and our last episode, it's almost looking at your organization through a prism where you
Yeah.
you change the focus and you
Yep.
see very clearly
Yeah.
your organization in very different ways, and I love it.
I do too. And it's those are the glasses that I wear.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
can validate that 100%.
Yeah. So,
Get the book, right?
well, yes, and go forward acting hopeful,
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah. I used
Never
to say,
know when. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if not us, then who, right?
The end.